President John Dramani Mahama's recent call for the establishment of direct flights between Ghana and the Caribbean marks a defining moment in the rekindling of centuries-old ties between Africa and its diasporic family across the Atlantic. In a world where travel and connectivity shape economic power and cultural influence, his message was not just about airplanes and routes. It was about bridging a historical gap that has kept two kindred regions apart for far too long. Before we dive deeper into today's update, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support is key to helping us grow and reach more viewers like you. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on exciting updates. The atmosphere at the presidency in Accra was one of renewed optimism as Mahama hosted the Prime Minister of Grenada, Honorable Dickon Amis Thomas Mitchell, who was in Ghana on a two-day official visit. Their meeting was more than ceremonial. It was symbolic of a growing recognition that Africa and the Caribbean share a future that is economically intertwined, culturally aligned, and historically inseparable. President Mahama's remarks resonated with deep emotion and strategic foresight. Standing before both Ghanaian and Grenadian delegations, he reminded the gathering that the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum, ACTIV, has already created the groundwork for stronger partnerships between the two regions. Yet he noted the lack of direct air connectivity remains one of the biggest barriers to realizing the full potential of these partnerships. The president pointed out a glaring irony. Though Africa and the Caribbean are separated by just a few thousand miles, a distance that could easily be covered in 6 hours by air, travel between the two regions often takes nearly a full day due to the absence of direct flights. Passengers are forced to transit through Europe or North America, adding unnecessary cost, time, and inconvenience. This, he argued, is more than a logistical problem. It's a structural limitation that has suppressed trade, restricted tourism, and slowed down the exchange of ideas between two regions that share so much in common. His words struck a chord not only with policymakers, but with ordinary citizens who understand that the connection between Africa and the Caribbean goes far beyond trade statistics. It is a connection built on shared history, bloodlines, and resilience. From the era of the transatlantic slave trade to the modern movements of Pan-Africanism, the stories of Ghana and the Caribbean are deeply interwoven. Both regions have endured centuries of struggle, colonialism, and cultural erasure, yet both have emerged with a determination to rebuild their identities and shape their own destinies. The call for direct air links, therefore, is not just about convenience, it's about reclaiming a sense of unity that geography has long denied. President Mahama emphasized that creating direct air routes between Ghana and the Caribbean would be a strategic necessity, one that could open a new chapter of economic and cultural revival. He spoke with conviction about the transformative potential of such a move, noting that easier travel would unlock opportunities across multiple sectors, from tourism and trade to education and cultural exchange. Imagine, he suggested, students from Accra spending semesters at universities in Grenada, or entrepreneurs from the Caribbean flying directly to Ghana to explore investment prospects in energy, agriculture, and technology. The impact could be revolutionary. Tourism, in particular, stands to benefit immensely from this initiative. For decades, travelers from the Caribbean and Africa have expressed interest in visiting each other's regions to reconnect with ancestral roots. Yet, the absence of direct flights has made it costly and complicated. A direct Ghana-Caribbean route could turn that dream into reality, fueling a new wave of cultural tourism rooted in heritage and identity. Diaspora Africans across the Caribbean could more easily trace their lineage to West Africa, while Ghanaians could explore the islands where the African spirit has survived through centuries of adversity, music, and culture. This would not only strengthen people-to-people ties, but also generate significant economic benefits for both sides, from hotels and restaurants to tour operators and artisans. But Mahama's vision goes beyond tourism. He understands that connectivity is the cornerstone of economic growth in the 21st century. Trade between Africa and the Caribbean has remained disappointingly low, largely because of logistical bottlenecks. Without direct air and shipping routes, moving goods between the two regions is both time-consuming and expensive. Establishing direct flights could serve as the first step in building a broader transportation network that encourages commerce, joint ventures, and technology transfer. Ghana, with its strategic location on the West African coast, could serve as a gateway for Caribbean businesses seeking entry into the African market, while Caribbean ports could do the same for African exporters targeting the Americas. During the luncheon, the spirit of partnership was palpable. Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell echoed Mahama's sentiments, expressing his country's eagerness to work closely with Ghana in areas such as health, education, and tourism. His visit was part of a broader mission to deepen ties between the two regions, following a series of engagements between African and Caribbean leaders under the framework of the African Export-Import Bank's Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum. For many observers, this marks a new era, one where political rhetoric is being replaced by concrete action plans. President Mahama's appeal also touched on a deeper psychological level. For too long, Africa and the Caribbean have interacted with each other largely through the lens of their colonial pasts. Travel between the two regions often requires passing through the very countries that once enslaved and exploited them. Mahama's call for direct connectivity, therefore, carries a symbolic weight. It represents a breaking away from colonial routes and a reclaiming of the right to define how both regions interact. It's a message of sovereignty, independence, and unity. He reminded the gathering that when Africa and the Caribbean collaborate, they amplify each other's strengths. Both regions possess rich natural resources, vibrant cultures, and dynamic youth populations. Together, they represent a global market of over 1.5 billion people with enormous potential for trade, tourism, and innovation. By working together through initiatives like direct air links, they can bypass traditional economic systems that have long kept them on the periphery of global trade and instead build a network that benefits their own people first. The establishment of a direct Ghana Caribbean flight could also play a critical role in education and research collaboration. Ghana's universities, such as the University of Ghana and KNUST, have been expanding their international partnerships while Caribbean institutions are looking for similar opportunities. Easier connectivity would enable student and faculty exchanges, joint research projects, and cultural programs that foster mutual understanding. It would also allow both regions to share expertise in critical sectors such as climate adaptation, renewable energy, and sustainable agriculture, areas where they face common challenges. Mahama's vision ties directly into the broader global conversation about South-South cooperation. In an increasingly multipolar world, developing regions are recognizing that their growth cannot depend solely on ties with traditional Western powers. The partnership between Africa and the Caribbean represents a new model of collaboration, one based on equality, mutual benefit, and shared history. By calling for direct flights, Mahama is laying the foundation for a new kind of diplomacy, one that is not mediated through third parties, but built directly between peoples who see themselves in each other. The potential social impact is equally powerful. Direct flights would make it easier for families divided by generations and oceans to reconnect. The African diaspora in the Caribbean has long yearned for more accessible links to the continent. Ceremonies, festivals, and cultural events could become regular exchanges, reviving traditions and creating new cultural hybrids that celebrate African identity in its fullest sense. From reggae to highlife, from kente to carnival, the fusion of African and Caribbean cultures could spark a new global movement in art, fashion, and entertainment. Economically, the benefits are hard to ignore. Air connectivity stimulates business travel, investment, and tourism all at once. It boosts GDP, creates jobs, and attracts foreign investment. For Ghana, which has positioned itself as a hub for West Africa, a direct air link to the Caribbean would strengthen its aviation sector and expand its influence as a regional gateway. For Grenada and other Caribbean nations, it would open access to Africa's rapidly growing markets and foster investment in sectors like renewable energy, agriculture, and healthcare. The timing of Mahama's call could not be more significant. Both regions are seeking to rebuild their economies in the aftermath of global disruptions, from the pandemic to supply chain crises. As traditional trade routes become uncertain, the need for regional alliances becomes even more pressing. Africa and the Caribbean have a rare opportunity to rewrite the rules, to create their own economic corridors that prioritize their shared interests. Direct flights could be the first step toward that transformation, creating the physical and symbolic bridge needed to connect their futures. President Mahama's words were not just a call to action, but a reminder of a shared destiny. He urged both regions to see this not merely as an aviation issue, but as a historic mission to restore the ties that time and colonialism tried to sever. We must collaborate to change this situation, he said, with determination. Creating direct air links between Ghana and the Caribbean is not just a matter of convenience, but a strategic necessity. Those words echo far beyond the walls of the presidency. They speak to millions across both sides of the Atlantic who have long felt the distance not only in miles, but in missed opportunities. They speak to the dreamers, the entrepreneurs, the artists, and the students who envision a world where Africa and its diaspora can connect freely, learn from each other, and build together. As the luncheon came to a close, the sense of optimism was unmistakable. The discussions between Ghana and Grenada are expected to lead to practical steps, perhaps an aviation agreement, feasibility studies, or partnerships with airlines. But more importantly, the event rekindled a shared sense of purpose. The journey toward direct flights may take time, but the vision has been clearly set in motion. In a world that is increasingly divided, President Mahama's call stands out as a message of unity, ambition, and forward-thinking leadership. It is a reminder that sometimes the simplest connections, like a flight path across the ocean, can hold the key to unlocking generations of potential. And as Ghana and Grenada continue to strengthen their ties, the dream of seeing a plane soar directly from Accra to St. George's may soon become a reality, not just as a route on a map, but as a bridge between two regions that have always belonged together.
If today is your first time watching this channel or you are returning to this channel for the exciting content, please subscribe to the channel for more educative and developmental projects across Ghana and Africa as a whole. Do you want to know about the state of a project in Africa? Then make sure to like and comment the name of the project you would like us to talk about and its current state.